4 days before the draft, we are going to run through mock draft 2.0. I had the odd picks. Ishan had the even picks. Let's get this started with the first pick of the draft.
Damn, it has been a hot minute since
It has been a
we last recorded.
I promise you, we got a lot of content coming down the pipeline. I've got film analysis coming up on top picks, and then I'll do some after the draft players where I think we'll have a really good scheme fit and will well the rookie and further in their career. But
yeah,
before we talk about any of that, let's get back into the draft. Cincinnati, we're just gonna Joe Burrow. You see my hoodie, I got LSU hoodie on. I'm gonna try to keep it unbiased. I gave Ishan the Saints pick, so I'm gonna try to get my homerism out of here, and I'm gonna try to be very objective, matter of fact. And Joe Burrow, I saw him in person twice at the Oklahoma and Georgia game, and during that Georgia game, I have not seen many NFL quarterbacks do the things he did. And my comp for him is Drew Brees in Gardner Minshew's body. And it really is. He Gardner Minshew's legs. He's got the brain of Drew Brees. It's absolutely incredible to watch. And he is the best prospect coming out since Andrew Luck. And I think that with his stats last season, that's undeniable.
Quick question for you about this pick. You said Gardner Minshew's body. Does that include the mustache?
If it did, I would lose it. Because I think another thing that makes a good quarterback is his moxie. And I think that both Gardner Minshew and Joe Burrow have a great personality. And I think that actually is a skill backs need to have. Like guys like Josh Rosen lost their locker room immediately, and that just caused them, along with their talents, obviously, to
Joe Burrow's
fail.
got confidence. Yeah, totally.
I think the three things make a good quarterback: ability to make a play when the ability to make a play after the play breaks down, ability to defenses, and personality. And Burrow's got all three. And I think that he will be a great fit in Cincinnati. They've got good weapons around him. My only concern is Zach Taylor, who I don't think is a good coach. I mean, he was a quarterback coach for the Rams and got hired as a head coach. It just doesn't seem like a logical step. I love Joe Burrow, and I'm going to miss him in Baton Rouge.
So next up, we have our first big trade, and that is with Washington and Miami. And no, Miami is not taking Tua with this pick. They're actually going with the best player available as they trade their 5th and 18th pick for Washington's pick number 2, and they take Chaisson. I understand. What?
Could you explain why you picked him instead of a quarterback?
I understand that there's Tua, there's Jordan Love, there's Justin Herbert even. However, I feel like this team finished last in sacks. Like, they had a worse pass rush than the Atlanta Falcons, which is saying something. And next year's quarterback class does include Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields. And I don't see them, skyrocketing up this year. So I feel like they will have a high pick next year and the opportunity to take one of the two big names, plus a few more other good talents. And so I have them taking the best player, in my opinion, in the draft and addressing one of the other big needs.
I mean, he's most definitely one of the best pass rushers we've ever seen, and he's great. Graded as the best pass rusher, even better than Myles Garrett, who we thought was the best we're gonna ever see. And
yeah.
I think that it's just you can't pass him up. And Brian Flores, I love Beefalo, and getting him his rock for the defense is just going to be phenomenal.
Yeah, he now has his anchor.
You have to go Chase Young. I think that you could do what the Browns did and draft the defensive end before the quarterback. And unfortunately, their quarterback hasn't been the great, and he's been average. But I think you start with the defensive line because pass rush is one of the best skills, as we saw with the Niners.
Mm-hmm. So I see at number 3, you have Detroit, no trades there. And you have them taking my favorite player out of the draft over what a lot of people think they're going to take.
Well, I have Isaiah Simmons because when I look at Isaiah Simmons, he has to go to a team that can allow him to be versatile. And Matt Patricia gets a lot of hate, but he's a genius on the defensive end. He really is a phenomenal defensive mind. And I think that he could use him in a lot of great ways. And we've seen Gerard Davis hasn't been great. And I think that, one, the big question is a linebacker, safety. I think he's a linebacker. I think you have to maximize his skills. And something like a Derwin James role where he plays a lot of linebacker because that range allows him to cover more field at that position. And I think that with Patricia, you can get a lot of use out of him. And I think the other argument is that they take Okudah, but I don't have him as that high of a value. And they've got Marnie Arden that they drafted last year, who I was really high on last year and played solid. So I don't think corners as pressing a need as people might say.
Yeah, totally agree. Simmons is an excellent player, one-of-a-kind talent. He can really play all over the place. I forget like the exact numbers, but he had substantial snaps, obviously at safety and at inside outside linebacker. But he was also playing on the edge. Too. Yeah, he was playing as a nickel. He was playing on the edge, so he can come in and make an immediate impact wherever they put him. So at pick number 4, we have the New York Giants, and I see them taking Jedrick Wills, not Jerry Jeudy, not any other tackle. I feel like Jedrick Wills is the most pro-ready tackle. He really has the fundamentals, the footwork, and stuff like that to come in and make an immediate impact for Saquon, for Daniel Jones, and their receivers. I feel like this is a deep receiver class, and they can address that in the later rounds.
I guess I should have prefaced it earlier. This is not what we think is going to happen, but what we think should happen because it's a better way to evaluate your talent as an evaluator. And I think that makes logical sense as what we think should happen. But the real question is, what is Dave Gettleman actually going to do? Is he going to reach on a guy like Becton, or he might pull something crazy? But with the 5th pick, we have Washington trading down and selecting Tristan Wirfs. And the reason why I have them picking Wirfs over a guy like Okudah, which they definitely need after trading Quentin Dunbar to the Seahawks for a minimal return, is that if you want Dwayne Haskins to succeed, you have to get in protection. And Trent Williams is not going to stay. You ruined that relationship. That bridge is burnt. But with Tristan Wirfs, you're going to allow him the time to develop as a passer because Dwayne Haskins has a very long release. It takes him a while to throw the ball downfield, which is it can be a lot of quarterbacks have done that, but you need to have a good offensive line. I think that's the biggest need now for this team. And they don't need Chase Young at 2 because I think they have a really good defensive line. Matt Ioannidis, Jonathan Allen, Deron Payne, Montez Sweat, Ryan Kerr. I don't think they desperately need another defensive end prospect as much as they desperately need a replacement for Trent Williams. So I think that Tristan Wirfs, who both the right and left, started as a freshman at Iowa, which is incredibly impressive. I think that this is a very safe pick for them and a pick that's very much needed.
Yeah, totally agree. Wirfs has insane potential, as we saw in the combine, and even in that video of him jumping out of a pool, and broad jumping out of a pool and landing on his feet. I'm like, damn, that's an offensive lineman doing that. That is not a receiver. That's impressive. But speaking of receivers.
That since Teron Armstead. Dang, what did he 4.6?
Who? Wirfs?
Teron, he was incredible. Yeah, moving on.
I'm not sure. Yeah, let's move on. Yeah. So at pick 6, we do have another big trade. Minnesota trades up with the LA Chargers, and they send their 22nd and 25th pick to the Chargers for pick 6, and Minnesota takes Jerry Jeudy. This will, obviously, after trading away Stephon Diggs, they have a void to fill at that receiver position, and also losing Laquan Treadwell, even though he wasn't very good. They still have a void to fill, and I think Jerry Jeudy, with just his insane athleticism, route running ability, he's really proven that he can come in and make a day one impact for a team that still want to make a run in the playoffs. Like, I know there have been some concerns with things like drops, but there are also concerns with Julio Jones and drops. And I'm not saying Jeudy is a Julio-type player. They are both excellent receivers from the same school with different types of games, but, like, I don't know, stuff like that shouldn't dictate the drastic placement of a player, because we've seen Julio as the best receiver in the decade.
I mean, he just jams his leg in the ground and just, I don't know, his route running is incredible. People are really saying in this draft, why trade up for a quarterback since it's such a deep class? Why would you not just wait and get someone at 22 or 25? Why does Minnesota trade up best receiver in this class?
Like, Jeudy is his own tier, in my opinion. Like, he is a guy that can just run like any type of route that you give him and definitely makes a quarterback's job a lot easier. And I think that there are a lot of deeper threat, speed type prospects in this class, but I think that Minnesota should look more at someone that can make Kirk Cousins' job a lot simpler and easier.
Later in this draft, we'll definitely see that this was a very good move, and 22 did not have a lot of receivers left at that point.
Yeah,
moving
totally.
on to number 7, we have Carolina. I have them Jeff Okudah to replace the void James Bradbury left to pair Jackson out of LSU. And I think that this creates a tandem of cornerbacks. And at worst, I see Jeff Okudah as the best slot corner in the league. That is his floor. This guy is so fundamentally sound prospect. The only thing slightly concerning is his speed, 4.48. If you really want to be a lockdown island corner, you're going to want to be in the low 4.4s like a guy like Marshawn Lattimore, who befuddles me because he will hold Mike Evans to 0 targets, 0 catches for 0 yards. Or not 0 targets, 0 catches for 0 yards. And he will lock down all the best defenders. But then he'll let someone like Calvin Ridley, who's a very good receiver, torch him for like 3 touchdowns. Like, he feasts off better competition, and then he shrinks against the small cup. Like, he'll be put on Julio Jones, and he'll feast, and then he'll go against Calvin Ridley and get toasted.
But then again, Calvin Ridley is the second best receiver in the NFL behind Julio Jones, of course.
Okay, we got our Falcons fans.
Russell Gage is top 5. Easy.
But the thing is that Carolina, this division is loaded with receiver talent, and if you want to compete in this division at all, you're going to need to be fundamentally sound at the corner position. You got Michael Thomas, Emmanuel Saints, even Traquan Smith and Jared Cook if you want to throw them in there. Even Taysom Hill, he was second in receiving touchdowns last year for the Saints. And then you've got the Falcons, Calvin Ridley, Julio Jones, and the Bucks. Holy cow, Chris Godwin and Mike Evans. I mean, you're going to need a corner position and losing James Bradbury, who I don't think was that great, but you definitely need a corner in this draft.
Yeah, he is one of the most sought after prospects in this class. And really, when you watch the tape, you can see why. Like, he's a guy that will come in, lock up your best receiver. And yes, he doesn't have the acceleration or that 40 time to really become a man on his island just yet. But I feel like everything else, he's down. Like, in that interview, I don't think he committed a single penalty this year, which definitely says a lot about the way he plays and about the talent that you're getting at pick number 7.
And he's got very fluid hips. He's got great footwork, and he's going against a lot of big receivers, and that's his kind of guy to match up against. So I think that this division's perfect for him. Moving on to have another trade. We have Denver trading up, sending 15.
It's trade season, baby.
Yes, it is. 15 and 77 to Arizona for pick 8. And who are they picking at this spot?
CB2, CJ Henderson. Some actually say that Henderson has a higher floor than Okudah, and personally I don't see that, but I can kind of see why. He had 4.3 speed. He has a great body, great frame, and he has the man coverage abilities to play in this league. And after losing Chris Harris Jr., one of the best man coverage corners in the NFL, you have CJ Henderson to come in and be his replacement.
Isaac Yiadom is not getting the job done over there. But people do worry about this Florida cornerbacks because people like Vernon Hargreaves have come out and busted massively. What makes C.J. Henderson such a better prospect than the other Florida cornerbacks coming out recently?
I think first he's one of the most athletically sound players in this draft, if not the most. Like if you're pairing him with any receiver, chances are like 90% of the time he's going to be as athletic or more athletic. So he has that athletic ability to make plays. And then also, once again, his man coverage ability is great. You know, Denver losing their best man coverage corner now has a guy that can come in, get improve on that man coverage ability that he already has, and he can become one of the best lockdown corners in the NFL. Like his zone ability definitely needs some work, but man to man, he is a man that can come in and just lock you up.
His tackling is a concern though, and that'd be how they would just throw screens to Tyreek Hill all game to bully him. But moving on, we have Atlanta Falcons, and so this is at my odd selection because they traded up. And who do we have the Falcons taking here at number 9?
So first the trade, Atlanta sends pick 16 and Takk McKinley to Jacksonville for pick 9. And I have them taking, in my opinion, the best player available and someone that can fit a need, Javon Kinlaw. Kinlaw is just an amazing player who, unlike Derrick Brown, who's like a pure Damon Harrison run stopper type guy, Kinlaw can come in and rush the passer. So now you got Grady Jarrett, Dante Fowler, hopefully he pans out, and then you got Javon Kinlaw coming in and, making an impact for a team that finished second to last in sacks last year.
I think this is a really great pick. I think he could be a top 5 talent in this draft class. I really like Javon Kinlaw, and he's still really, really rough as a player. And so I think that's a great pick right there.
I love Kinlaw. I love his I love Kinlaw. I love his work ethic. Coming from very humble beginnings, like he knows what it takes to really work and, going from nothing to actually making an impact. Those are the kind of guys that I like to see.
We have another trade. 3 trades in a row. We got Pittsburgh trading up, sending Bud Dupree and pick 49 to the Cleveland Browns. And with this pick, I have them taking Jordan Love. You might be asking, why would they need a quarterback? They have Big Ben. This arm injury that he had, I think it was a MCL or UCL, whatever the ligament elbow is. It is a gruesome injury, and there's concern for overthrow again. I think that if you want a quarterback, Jordan Love, you have the ability to have a year off with him. You could have a sit behind a great quarterback in Big Ben and learn. And he's got a great offensive line to work into with Andre Villanueva, Mike Pouncey, who may not be actually that good, and David DeCastro. And I Love in this system can thrive because he's got talent around him, and he's afforded the luxury of sitting his first year. And I think that is a recipe for success for Jordan Love. And if he goes to Pittsburgh, that is going to be one amazing battle. Love versus Burrow versus Mayfield versus Lamar. And Mayfield get blown out of the water in that contest.
Oh yeah. Who's your player comp for Jordan Love?
Well, there's not really a comp for him, and I'm not gonna say Pat Mahomes because that's unfair. But I'm not gonna give him a comp because that's too unrealistic expectations. But he can make the same throws from every position that Patrick Mahomes can make, and I know you can call him Pat Mahomes like. I just don't like calling him that, but he is the closest quarterback to him. I think it's an unfair comparison. It's the most accurate.
So, pick 11. It's an odd pick, so I'll let you analyze this one. We have the New York Jets on the clock. They do not trade up, which is something that they potentially are looking at, or even trade down. They go and take the best offensive lineman that's available.
It's not Mekhi Becton. It's Thomas out of Georgia.
Hell no.
He grades the best out of the past 3 years. He's put up incredible grades the past 3 years in the SEC, and he's just been phenomenal. There's a little bit of question with his arm length, but I think that he should sound that he'll be a good player. But I do have a little bit of concerns that he could just become an average player. There's no bust with him, but I think there's a very good chance that he'll just be an average offensive tackle in the NFL. I don't know if that's worth the 11th pick, but the Jets desperately need this position, and it's not too bad of a reach. 13, he's 13 on my big board, and he's going 11. I think that this makes the best sense for the Jets.
So next up, we do have the Las Vegas. I can't believe I'm not saying Oakland anymore. Raiders, and the Raiders are going to be taking. Yeah. They're going to be taking Justin Jefferson out of LSU, to address that wide receiver need, as like Hunter Renfrow was one of their top receivers. Yeah, 7th round pick, rookie. And so I really do like Jefferson. You know, he's a winner. He played on the national championship winning LSU team with Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and all that. He has great height and great length, and he has a good ability to hawk the ball, and he's a solid route runner as well. And I think he can be used with Darren Waller as a good red zone target as well. So I think there's a lot that you can do with Justin Jefferson, and he'll definitely slide in and have a big role that he'll be able to fill out as his career progresses.
Biggest pet peeve with guys like Justin Jefferson and other quote-unquote slot corners is, can they win on the outside? That's all that matters, winning on the outside. It doesn't yards are yards. If you can get yards in the slot, I don't care. I don't care if you can win on the outside or not. I mean, he had less production as an outside receiver last year, but I don't care. He can win on the outside. He's got good speed, and I don't care where your yards come from. He is incredibly effective at producing yards, and 18 touchdowns, 1,500 yards. And his best skill is he plucks the ball out, no body catching. He reaches out and he gets the football. And that is going to be a quarterback's best friend. And he's just such an intellectual route runner, running all those choice routes with LSU, that he can develop like a Michael Thomas route running. Michael Thomas, like the route running ability he has at Drew Brees, where they had the route on the fly to attack the holes in the zone coverage. And I think that that's something that Carr is going to need. It'll pair perfectly with Derrick Waller and John Gruden. Great pick right here.
Yeah, 100%. He has some of the best hands in this draft. So, like, I'm definitely really excited to see him go up against, the LA Chargers, some of those corners, and see how, he fares against guys like Chris Harris and Derwin James playing zone. I think it'll be fun to watch.
And here we have pick 13, the San Francisco 49ers. And this pick is not because they lost Forrest Buckner. This pick is because it's a fun pick, and this would be incredible. They have 3 pass rushers. They have D Ford, they have Nick Bosa, and they have Eric Armstead. But now they have the run stuffer. And there is no way anyone else will be able to touch this defensive line. Chris Carson can say goodbye because he is not touching this. And I think that this is going to solidify this defensive line, and this team doesn't have that many needs. I don't think receivers as pressing as people say it is. And I might have picked an offensive lineman, but I didn't have any value at this pick. So I think that you take one of the best players available that will just absolutely ruin people in the middle of your defense, which I don't know if Solomon Thomas is going to be able to replace DeForest Buckner. I think that this is a great pick for the Niners, replacing a position that they need.
Yeah, totally agree. Now you are facing geez, that's a team that went to the Super Bowl, and now they're going to be able to stuff the run and then get you with their pass rush. That's just scary to think about. Like, man, that's like
poor NFC.
Yeah, that's a nightmare in San Francisco. So next up, we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and they could have gone Mekhi Becton here, but I actually have them taking edge rusher Chaisson out of LSU. I know he had that ACL injury in 2018, but he was able to bounce back from that and get some production, especially towards the last couple of games heading into the playoffs in the national championship. He's an exceptional athlete. He is very explosive. He's got length. He's got some solid moves. He's flexible. And he has an excellent tackling ability as well. And that explosiveness definitely is one part of his game that really drives him to be one of the best players in this class.
I mean, he really picked up at the end of the season for LSU. He looked phenomenal in those big games under the lights, and if he in dome games like in Mercedes-Benz during against Georgia and Oklahoma or in the Superdome, he looked phenomenal. And he can drop into coverage. I think that versatility will be really sought after for old Jets coach Todd Bowles.
Yeah, and
I think that'll be.
He also has excellent awareness. He can be a solid run defender as well. So I think Bruce Arians definitely now has a guy to work with on the edge.
Moving on to pick 15, it's Arizona after trading down. And here, Cliff Kingsbury probably doesn't value offensive linemen, but Mekhi Becton is just a monster. And my big board, this is a bit of a reach, but I think that if you want Kyler Murray to succeed, I think that you give just a big heaping man in your offensive line, and Mekhi Becton is definitely that. Sure, I would like to have had them get Tristan Wirfs or Jedrick, but they just weren't available at 8. So getting a guy with a similar people value similarly, I think that's a pretty good value for them. And as well as that, they're picking up pick 77, which they could do a lot of work with to fix a lot of their holes of their defense, which they definitely have a lot of. And then pick for them, solidifying the offensive line. One of the needs on this team, they got a lot of the defense, but I think this almost completes their offense that was average last year because their offensive line was not good. It had A.Q. Shipley, just not a good bunch right there.
Yeah. So next up we have the Jacksonville Jaguars, and they traded down with the Atlanta Falcons to get pick 16 and Takk McKinley, but they did trade away Calais Campbell. Yannick Ngakoue looks like he's on the market, and Shad Khan is not really looking at bringing him back. So they take another edge rusher. And in my opinion, they go with one of the more underrated guys in this class, Curtis Weaver out of Boise State. 14.5 sacks, one of the highest graded edge rushers from PFF. So this guy definitely has some production. But more importantly, he's got the hands he's got just insane hands. He's flexible. He has great technique. He has all the moves in his bag, or a lot of great moves in his bag. And he's not the modern day, speed super athlete rusher like Takk McKinley was coming out of UCLA. But Curtis Weaver beats his men on technique and good hands. He's not long. He's not the fastest, but he's just a very fundamentally sound producer that can come in and, may take a few years to develop, but definitely in my opinion, 1 or 2 Pro Bowls in hindsight.
I mean, his bend is his best tool that he has. He could just move like a liquid out there. He's incredible with his bend. That's really what gets a lot of tackles. And people have really been low on him. People even say he's a 4th-round pick. And people just like to disregard the fact that, he played in the Mountain West Conference. Those sacks don't mean anything. But I think that it shows that he's a great player that has proven production, which is going to be great for the NFL level. And if you really can't produce in college, I don't have that much faith that you're going to produce at a higher level. And I think that we saw this with guys like Jalen Ferguson last year, who was drafted in the 2nd round by the Ravens. People saw him coming out of Louisiana Tech, 40-something exact. That means nothing, guys. Pee-wee, Little League people. But he had a good season last year, and I think that Curtis Weaver is much more fundamentally sound than Jalen Ferguson is, and he's a much better player than Ferguson is. People just look at him, it's like, he doesn't look like a D-end. He must not be a D-end. So I think that's a lot of stigma around him.
Yeah. So pick 17, you got the Dallas Cowboys selecting the son of a former NFL cornerback.
It is Antoine Winfield Jr., and this guy is incredible. I mean, watching Minnesota last year was an absolute joy it was really fun to watch Minnesota last year, and Antoine Winfield is definitely a reason for that. And I think that coming in as a free safety is going to be very valuable for the Cowboys. Who safety help is definitely something that they need. And I was contemplating taking an edge here because uh, Robert Quinn did leave a pretty big hole there, but there wasn't a player I can value on my board, and taking Antoine Winfield here, I think he's going to be a very fun player who's going to immediately improve this defense. But why this pick? Because what would you rather have? Would you rather draft Antoine Winfield, or would you rather trade Jamal Adams? So I think this pick could be on the move. As we see a lot of rumors about Jamal Adams, but I think right now, not accounting for Jamal Adams trade, that this is going to be a great pick for them because Antoine Winfield is an absolute baller.
Yeah, totally agree. Excellent safety, and will definitely fill one of their big needs in Dallas. Moving on to number 18, Washington, who gets the pick from the Miami trade, selects Denzel Mims, a receiver out of Baylor. And, this is another great target that Haskins, with his big arm, can throw to. Like, Mims is 6'3", 206 pounds. He has a very diverse route tree, in my opinion, can run a lot of routes. He has the ability to, go up and catch contested balls. He has a great radius. He has good speed, good after the catch ability, good IQ. It's everything is there, in my opinion. He is a very well-rounded receiver that can. Man, that's just scary to think about. Mims and then Terry McLaurin with hopefully an improved Dwayne Haskins and his monster arm throwing the ball. Something could be happening in Washington.
I mean, Mims, people look for a reason to be low on a player. And they'll be like, oh, he doesn't have good a route tree because he didn't run that many routes at Baylor. They didn't ask him to run a lot of routes at Matt Rhule's system. He was asked to run that back shoulder fade, that dig on the sideline, or just run like a post or a streak. They told this DK Metcalf, oh, he's a small tree. But he learned. He's an aggressive learner. And he's got the size and skill you need. And putting that with Dwayne Haskins, who can put a ball in an absolute dime, these bachelor fades are going to be lethal. And I think that people try to discredit players. They look for they don't look for a reason to find a player's success. And I think Denzel Mims is one of the most slept on players in this draft, and is going to be an absolute stud wherever he's drafted.
Yeah. He has all the abilities that you're looking for, the competitive toughness, and he has the intangibles and the mentality to become a great player. So definitely be on the lookout for Denzel Mims. Number 19, we have the Las Vegas Raiders. Who are you selecting, Will?
Another Big Ten player, it's TCU's Jeff Gladney. And this is a player that I think can develop into an absolute island corner because he's a physical little guy. And people may, oh, he's small, I must play the slot corner position. But no, he's feisty. He might be 5'10" or whatever he's listed as, but he plays about 6'2". And he was suspended for the first half of the Oklahoma game, but he did a very good job banding up on CeeDee Lamb, one of the only corners that did leave him with 10 yards of separation somehow, like all the Big Ten receivers somehow managed to do. And he is a very feisty player with great speed and great tenacity. I think a great combination. I think that's something that Mike Mayock and John Gruden be looking for.
Definitely, definitely. Definitely will improve their cornerbacks as guys like Garyon Conley have not, panned out. Next up, Jacksonville, who acquires this pick from the Jalen Ramsey trade, selects a receiver that many think should go top 15, even top 10, in CeeDee Lamb. Now, I know you're not as high on him as a lot of others. Neither am I because, I feel like having 3 Heisman caliber quarterbacks and, getting very minimal Big 12 coverage definitely helped his production. But, this guy does show an ability to create separation, and he does have a good body and good hands for the league. So, this gives Minshew another target along with DJ Chark to combat some of the corners in the AFC East.
I mean, I think that CeeDee Lamb, he's a solid player, and I think that people look at his average catchability, but the thing is that he doesn't have anyone within 5 feet of him, and I think that that's just it's hard to get a proper evaluation on him. And then when he played LSU, so I watched a lot of this film because I was looking back to I was looking at trying to see Jerry Jeudy or CeeDee Lamb, and I ended up putting CeeDee Lamb in my receiver 4 position. But I looked at this game, and his only big plays is where he found a hole. He was in a hole in the defense, and LSU wasn't strictly man-to-man up against him. And I think that people can misevaluate him, and people look at him, and he looks like a physical dude, and he is, but I think that I don't know how much of a separation truly is his versus the coverage, and I think that that's something that we're going to have to look for towards the NFL, but putting him in Jacksonville, really, I just want to see how this Gardner Minshew experiment goes. I mean, obviously he's a limited quarterback, but I mean, he's fun to watch, and he created very well last season, so I think that he has a good chance. With CeeDee Lamb and DJ Chark, that's a very good combination that he has now.
So, pick 21, now that Nelson Agholor is gone, if you're interested in watching a great Nelson Agholor and analysis, I'd recommend EDP 445. You have the Philadelphia Eagles selecting Laviska Shenault out of Colorado.
This guy has all the mental toughness in the world, and he's been through a lot. He's a quiet guy, and NFL scouts look for the worst things. Like, oh, he doesn't want to cut his hair. Remember his dad. People are gonna tackle him by his hair now. No, his hair's off of, and I think that his average catchability, he's just feisty. But you're gonna look at the injuries and be like, can he stay healthy? But I think he can. He hasn't shown anything to prove that he hasn't, and he's a competitor and a half. And I think that putting him with Carson Wentz, he is going to be incredible. Because if you remember with Nick Foles, Alshon Jeffrey wasn't his guy. That was Nick Foles' guy. He wants a big receiver. I think that with Laviska Shenault, a player that can make a lot after the catch and is just a crafty guy, and you can use whatever you want to get the most out of him. You can play him at running back. You can play him at quarterback. Like you just want to get the ball in his hands. I think that Philadelphia, Doug Pearson will get a good job at that. I think that's a good pick here.
So pick number 22, we got the LA Chargers. And yeah, this is where the bomb definitely drops. They take Tua Tagovailoa out of Alabama, a guy that they considered trading up for with Detroit and taking, and he slides down all the way to pick 22. Of course, there are issues with his injuries, but he is a very special talent, Heisman finalist, a guy that can come in the clutch, really, really transformed Alabama's program and took over after Jalen Hurts. So he definitely has the talent. There are obviously a few red flags we didn't really get to see. We didn't obviously see him at the combine, or we didn't see him anywhere else because of COVID and the injuries. But I think from what we've seen in college, he does look like an excellent talent in the NFL. And the LA Chargers get their big name quarterback that they can build their team and their brand around.
I mean, there are some significant red flags. That's the reason why we have that 22 instead of number 3. And okay, so he broke his finger. He had surgery on both of his knees, both of his ankles, a hip injury, alleged 2 wrist fractures, and
Jeez.
he has an incredible offensive line, 3 first-round offensive tackles. But the thing is he took 10 sacks last season and got that many injuries. The problem is he drifts in the pocket a little bit too much. He just drifts himself into pressure, and that allows him to get sacks and unnecessarily take injuries. And another problem with him is, what does he do on his second read? And he's great on his first read. He's got incredible accuracy in the short, intermediate, and deep range, but he has 4 first-round receivers. I mean, not in my eyes, but people say they have 4 first-round receivers. But guess what? I mean, we haven't seen a second read, and with a one score of 13 or 18 or whatever you want to believe, that is not impressive, and I don't know what he's going to be able to do with the limited supporting cast. But Chargers, good fit. You've got good weapons. I think this is going to be a very good tandem, and I think that you can afford him to sit 1 or 2 years.
So, next up, you have the New England Patriots. They do not trade up to get Tua. They stay put, and they take Jordan Elliott, defensive tackle.
We're off the Tom Brady, what Bill Belichick would say. So I had taking Jordan Elliott. Bill Belichick lives through his defense, and Jordan Elliott is a monster, a silent monster because he plays for Missouri. And people grade him as a second, third, fourth round player, but he was hidden gem in Missouri. People forget Kelly Bryant played for Missouri last season. That's how forgettable Missouri is. But he is an absolute monster and could definitely be a top two defensive tackle in this class if there weren't just such great monsters ahead of him. I see him on the same level as Derrick Brown because he has a higher ceiling because of that pass rush ability that he has. I think that in New England, the ceiling's the limit for this kid.
Yeah. When the New England Patriots draft you and put you in their system, that means two things. That means that you are a very good player, A, and B, you are not guaranteed, but you have a chance to make a big impact in this league. So definitely watch out for Jordan Elliott, one of the more underrated prospects. At number 24, we got your New England Saints. I'll let you take this one.
Well, I'll let you pick this, but I'll talk about it, obviously.
Yeah, so...
Kenneth Murray. So Kenneth Murray, I think that the Saints really need someone to solidify their linebacking core. They've got Alex Anzalone, they've got Demario Davis, but they lost A.J. Klein. And Alex Anzalone cannot stay healthy. When he is, he's a great player, but he hasn't been able to stay healthy. But having someone like Kenneth Murray, who is great against the run, I mean, preferably I would have rather have had someone like a Willie Gay or well, not with this value, but Willie Gay or Patrick Queen, who's great in coverage. But I just picked the values right for Kenneth Murray, and I think that having someone with that tenacity in the defense is just going to make this team exponentially better because now this team doesn't really have a flaw except for, I guess, slot corner, which P.J. Williams probably might not do the best job at. And this team, you got a leader in the secondary with a new signing and old teammate of Malcolm Jenkins. Cam Jordan leads the defensive line, and Demario Davis leads the linebacking core. You've got yourself a veteran team with young talent infused with it. I think Kenneth Murray can really bolster the Saints defense, which definitely needed some help because when Drew Brees came back, they put on cruise control, took the foot off the pedal. So
yeah, definitely.
We have pick 25, LA Chargers. And so this is Josh Jones, simple pick, best tackle available, Chargers need a tackle. There's not much more to say about this. He's a very good player. A good pick. I think the Chargers really need this, and if they're going to get to it, they have an offensive tackle.
Yeah. They needed, offensive tackle besides quarterback was one of their biggest needs going into this draft. So, getting the best player available, a guy that has very high praise, Josh Jones, will definitely protect Tua as he throws to Keenan Allen and Mike Williams and all that. Pick 26, Miami picks Xavier McKinney. They got this pick from Houston in the Laramie Tunsil trade. And yeah, Xavier McKinney, Alabama product, safety. He has excellent versatility. He can do a lot. He has a great athletic ability, great football IQ, and he has great zone coverage skills, and he has excellent ball hawking and ball skills, very feisty hands. So I think, getting some time to develop under Rashad Jones, who's definitely, declining and is going to be on the move soon, and, working with Xavier Howard, another talented corner, I think this Miami secondary, or Xavier McKinney specifically, can turn into not a perennial Pro Bowler, but a 1 or 2 time Pro Bowler that will grade very, very, very well. And he's an excellent zone coverage, great tackler. He can accelerate well. So he has all these tools to become a stalwart on this secondary. And as a side note, he also honors a South Florida legend, Josette Onfroy, with that two-tone haircut that I noticed from his draft profile.
And we've got number 27. We have Seattle picking the big man out of the Raging Cajuns, Louisiana Lafayette. And this guy's a tackle to guard conversion like a Zach Martin was. And this guy's just a mean dude. He is an incredible run blocker. He's just a people mover. He is just a massive dude. And he will protect Russell Wilson for whatever it costs because this guy's a mean dude. He's being slept on a lot because he plays for a small school, but he is a monster up in the middle, and he can play tackle or guard. I think he's better as a guard, but good pick for them.
6'5", 300, how much? Like 327 or something like that. I forgot, but yeah, Robert Hunt.
Absolute monster.
Yeah, 323. Yeah, so he's a monster, and he'll definitely be able to slide into guard and protect Russell Wilson and Chris Carson. So next up, we got Baltimore taking outside linebacker Patrick Queen. This is a guy, LSU product, that's drawn comparisons to former Tigers Deion Jones and Quan Alexander. Both very impactful starters for excellent teams and Pro Bowl caliber players. So, he's in good company. He's a great tackler. He has great range, and he has excellent coverage ability. So, this could very well be the steal of the draft. So Baltimore really got itself a guy that has the versatility and the range to impact an already good defense.
And coverage really is his forte, and he's just a great player. I think that people are concerned about his 1 year production, and I think that he's just a great player, and you just look at his coverage ability. That's something that you really covet in the NFL nowadays. This is a pass-first league, and you address the one need Baltimore had in the middle of their defense at linebacker. It's a perfect pick, great value, great position need. It's a A+ pick right there.
Yeah, he's a very intelligent player, great awareness. So I think he'll fit right in. And remember, this team already added Calais Campbell for a 5th rounder. So, geez, that defense is looking scary. So at pick 29, the Tennessee Titans add one of our favorite players, former track star, and just elite and graded off the charts safety from California, Ashton Davis.
So this is my pick, and I was initially really low on Ashton Davis, like a late 2nd round, early 3rd round type player. And I was going through watching Justin Herbert, and I say, dang, this 27 kid, is that Ashton Davis? Because he's a monster. He's lighting up players, picking off bad throws, but picking off Justin Herbert anyways, looking like an absolute monster out there. So I was watching some more. I really like this player, and he's just, if you watch his interviews, he has this great presence and demeanor about him. And the one weakness or glaring weakness I see on this Titans team is Kenny Vaccaro at strong safety. And I think Ashton Davis, while he can play both sides of the safety position, I think that he can really come in and do a great job. And so this came down between Grant Delpit and Ashton Davis. And there's too many concerns about Grant Delpit. He's so boomer bust. I just can't really value taking him in the 1st round with this pick. So Ashton Davis is a solid player who will really make this defense have no real flaw. If you look at it,
yeah.
Look at it on paper, this defense looks great.
Yeah, I agree. Ashton Davis, his passer rating allowed is somewhere in the 20s, which is lower than the passer rating that a quarterback gets from just throwing the ball out of bounds intentionally. That's how good of a player that we're talking about going to Tennessee, a team that, I'm not going to say it was a close game, but they definitely did provide the Chiefs a challenge in the 1st half. So,
the first half they were winning up by 10, so.
Yeah.
Moving on to Green Bay.
Mahomes existed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a lot of teams can say that. Moving on to the Green
Um,
Bay Packers, they have solving all their issues with what pick, Ishan?
they picked Devin Duvernay, who will be that number 2 receiver next to Devontae Adams. He's a great route runner. One of the faster players at the combine. Definitely one of the fastest at his position. Great route runner for Texas. He's got great hands, good physicality, and I think that he'll fit right in and give Aaron Rodgers another target to throw to.
He's not just a slot guy. You'll look at, oh, he runs a 4.39. He's a track guy. He must be just a speed guy. He had 129 targets, and more impressively, he had 3 drops. He is an incredible pass catcher with a great production of 1,500 yards, I believe, last season. He is a great, great receiver. And I think that this is a guy that Matt LaFleur is going to value as a crafty route runner. And I think that this is someone that they're really going to value at this pick and will make an immediate impact.
So moving on to our NFC champions, the San Francisco 49ers. Who do you have them taking at pick 31?
I'm taking Lloyd Cushenberry out of LSU. I think
Lloyd.
that this is one reason. I don't think that Lloyd. I think that this is just a great pick because Ben Garland may not be or Weston Richburg or whoever they play at center is not the answer. And Lloyd Cushenberry is a mover of men. And if you look at him, he had a good LSU season last year, but if you look at him at the Senior Bowl, he was just obliterating people. And he has the ability just to, in a zone run system, just blow someone up and then go to the second level and blow up the linebacker. I think that this is something they're going to value because in the zone running scheme, you're going to try to get a duos block on the first tackle. Then you're going to want to get one guy off to move to the second layer. And this guy can definitely move to the second layer. He's got speed. He's got size. I think that this is a really good pick for the Niners. And this really complements what they try to do. And this is a perfect pick for them with good value.
Yeah, definitely great value. They got Tevin Coleman, Matt Breida, Raheem Mostert, and then you got Deebo Samuel. So he'll be able to come in and be an effective blocker for all 4 of those guys. And so moving on to our world champion Kansas City Chiefs, I have them taking Willie Gay Jr. out of Mississippi State, linebacker, definitely fills one of their needs. And he is a rangy, tough type player that, played in the tough SEC, and he has excellent coverage ability. So, this is someone that can help stop some of these tight ends and other like slot receiver targets in the AFC West. So I think he's a perfect fit for this team. He can tackle, he's got range, and he has the toughness and good decision making and awareness to be a solid starter.
He's definitely got the toughness punching a backup quarterback in the face. That's a little bit of an issue, but he aced the combine interviews. Apparently, he cleared it all up, and he also cheated on the chemistry test. But these off-field issues aside, he's apparently changed. Apparently, he's aced the interview process. Apparently, he's flying up draft boards. Great in coverage, and that's what the Chiefs needed this division, and that's one of their biggest needs is at the linebacker position, and that wrapped up the first round.
Yep, that is our first round. If we were the GMs, I took the even picks. Will took the odd picks. We definitely had some crazy trades with Minnesota, Denver, Atlanta, and Pittsburgh. But I think that each team came out of this draft with a great pick and a great value at their position. They made a lot of very ballsy moves, but those moves I feel like will help them in the long term and in some teams in the short term and long term.
And that doesn't just do it for this week because we got a lot more content coming down the pipeline. I got my mock draft 3.0 coming up. I was doing a couple on the side, so that's why we're at 3.0 already. So I got that 3 rounds coming up later this week. I've got film breakdowns on the top 4 quarterbacks, and that's going to do it for us today, and we'll see you next time.